So the question is, did I ever encounter game developers that didn't like playing their own game? Now, there's game developers in the generic sense of like, there's somebody building the tools to build the UI. There's somebody, there's a bunch of work that's not directly in the game affecting the game. So yeah, I've met a bunch of those with varying degree of they're fine or not, right? Like I appreciate when everybody plays because I think again I like a diversity of input, but that's fine. Not really, but you want them to play, but that's fine. That doesn't affect their job. I have never met a designer that doesn't play their game that is a good designer. If I've worked with you and that pisses you off, yeah, I won't think I'd work with you again. For me, a designer that doesn't play their own game, but yet makes judgment calls and says things about the game or how people play it, especially people who don't play the game with the public and have an understanding of how the game's really played and then try to impose it. I mean, I've seen that. Man, it drove me nuts on some projects that I've worked on where people just clearly didn't play the game and didn't understand how people played it and what the frustration points were. And then they were trying to solve it. And having to get in arguments with them and being like, will you just play the game with me in public? And then this argument will be over. So developers as a whole, right? Like, sure. But seriously, if you're a designer, if you have any input on design, if you want to be part of the design discussion, if you're not playing the game and if you're not playing the game with the public, I won't listen to you anymore. I think over the last couple of years, I've learned I'm just not going to listen to you anymore because you just have bad ideas. Because you have this crystallized, golden, beautiful design idea in your head, which is the worst design idea ever, right? The design ideas are when it touches the game and you actually get feedback from players and you see how people really interact with it. When you skip that, when you think you're too smart for that, A, that says a lot about your personality, and B, one, two, A, B, I don't know. But that also just says a lot about how really good of a designer you are, because the best designers that I've worked with, and this is why I design this way. I don't design this way because I'm the best designer. I design this way because the people I've worked with that I think are the smartest designers and the best designers always just put into littlest inkling of what their idea is. What is the smallest amount we can put in that captures what this is, that makes this the statement of what this is, and then what do we learn when we put that in? Okay, now what if we do more? Now some things have to be bigger. Some things have to be a big chunk, right? But sometimes a really little thing. And then have the nerve to say, that didn't work. Let's pull it. Boy, that didn't work and let's pull it. That's hard. And you only get that if you've played the game. If you've played a game and you're like, why is this in here? Like that's somebody who didn't play their game. And in big companies, that really becomes a problem because there's a bunch of different pieces all coming together and it's not playable. Games I worked on, we try to make it playable right away. So, it wasn't fun until, 6 months before release. No, making Left 4 Dead was fun 3 years before release, right? No, the good games, the well-designed games, you can do that. In smaller teams, bigger teams are a different beast. But yeah, play your game. You have to play your game. And I'll tell you what, if you want to be an engineer and not actually, you want to do a UI for menus, or you want to do, I don't know, whatever is not impacting gameplay directly, you should still play it and give feedback that way, because your feedback I would ignore if you're not playing the game. It sounds harsh, but man, that is a lesson you learn to be harsh about.